In a small, quaint town nestled between dense woods, there stood an old Victorian house with an unsettling reputation. The locals spoke in hushed tones about the place, claiming it harbored a darkness that transcended the creaking floorboards and faded wallpaper. The Forrester house, as it was known, sat in eerie silence, waiting for unsuspecting souls to step into its shadowed embrace. The Forrester house found new inhabitants in the Turner family. Sarah, a widowed mother, and her 6-year-old daughter, Emily, sought solace in the old Victorian after the tragic loss of Sarah's husband. The town, aware of the house's history, reluctantly welcomed the newcomers, their eyes following the pair as they cautiously entered the silent abode. As night fell, a palpable unease settled over the Forrester house. The walls seemed to whisper secrets of the past, and shadows danced in the corners of the rooms. Emily, oblivious to the ominous atmosphere, explored the nooks and crannies, her innocent laughter echoing through the empty halls. The house, it seemed, responded to her presence with an unsettling stillness, as if holding its breath. In the days that followed, Emily spoke of an unseen playmate, Lily. Sarah dismissed it as a child's imagination, seeking companionship in a new and unfamiliar place. However, the peculiar occurrences could not be ignored. Toys moving on their own, faint giggles echoing in empty rooms, and the unsettling feeling of being watched. Sarah, torn between rationality and a mother's intuition, tried to reassure herself that the house's reputation was merely a local legend. One night, as the moon cast an ethereal glow through the dusty windows, Emily insisted on hosting a tea party for Lily. Sarah, indulging her daughter's imagination, played along, arranging an empty tea set on the dusty living room floor. The air thickened with an unseen presence, and the temperature dropped as the room transformed into an eerie tableau. Sarah's attempts to dismiss the mounting unease were shattered when the teacups rattled on their own, and a spectral giggle resonated through the air. In the attic, Emily discovered an old dollhouse, forgotten and dusty. Its miniature rooms mirrored the Forrester house in uncanny detail. Intrigued, Emily played for hours, arranging the tiny furniture and imagining the lives of the miniature inhabitants. Unbeknownst to Sarah, the dollhouse seemed to hold a mysterious connection to the house itself, as if bridging the gap between the tangible and the ethereal. As the days turned into weeks, the Forrester house revealed its darker nature. Shadows lengthened into grotesque shapes, and whispers escalated into faint cries that only Emily seemed attuned to. Sarah, her own unease growing, tried to maintain a semblance of normalcy, but the house's grip tightened, and the boundaries between reality and the supernatural blurred. One evening, Sarah caught a glimpse of a fractured reflection in the antique mirror. Distorted faces and twisted figures stared back at her, their eyes filled with sorrow and longing. The air became heavy with a sorrowful lament that seemed to emanate from the very walls of the Forrester house. Sarah, unable to shake the feeling of being a guest in her own home, began to question the wisdom of seeking refuge in a place so steeped in unsettling history. As the clock struck midnight, a haunting lullaby drifted through the house. Sarah rushed to Emily's room, only to find her peacefully asleep. The source of the spectral melody remained elusive, and Sarah, now consumed by a growing dread, struggled to maintain composure. The Forrester house, it seemed, had awakened a malevolent force that sought solace through the innocent soul of a child. In the dead of night, Sarah was drawn to the attic by an unseen force. The dollhouse, once forgotten, now commanded her attention. The miniature rooms mirrored the Forrester house in an unsettling display of supernatural mimicry. A voice, neither malevolent nor benevolent, whispered demands into Sarah's consciousness. The house hungered for acknowledgement, for the recognition of the tragedy that had unfolded within its walls. Haunted by the demands of the house, Sarah delved into the town archives, desperate to uncover the forgotten tragedy that bound the Forrester house to its malevolent fate. The townsfolk, reluctant to discuss the house's history, reluctantly revealed fragments of a dark tale involving a family torn apart, by secrets, betrayal, and a tragic loss that left the Forrester house cursed for generations. As Sarah unraveled the threads of the past, the Forrester house seemed to awaken, replaying the tragic events that had stained its walls with sorrow. Ghostly apparitions moved through the rooms, reenacting scenes of anguish and despair. Sarah, now a reluctant witness to the spectral drama, could feel the weight of the past pressing down upon her, demanding acknowledgement, and perhaps a chance at redemption. In the attic, Sarah discovered an old journal hidden beneath dusty crates. The journal belonged to Lily, a young girl from the 19th century who had once lived in the Forrester house. The entries chronicled a life marred by tragedy, the loss of parents, a forbidden love, and an untimely death that left Lily's spirit bound to the house, yearning for a connection with the living. Lily's journal revealed a chilling truth. A ritual gone awry had trapped her spirit within the Forrester house, forging an unholy bond between the living and the dead. The spectral playmate Emily spoke of was none other than Lily, a restless soul seeking solace through the companionship of the living. The demands Sarah had sensed were Lily's desperate attempts to break free from the curse that bound her to the house. Determined to free both Lily and her daughter from the malevolent grasp of the Forrester house, Sarah, armed with newfound knowledge, conducted a midnight seance. The living and the dead converged as Sarah, Emily, and the ghostly apparitions gathered in the living room. The air crackled with supernatural energy as Sarah, guided by the words of Lily's journal, sought to unravel the curse that held them all captive. In the midst of the seance, the threads of fate became tangled. Lily's sorrowful spirit, Emily's innocent presence, and the lingering tragedy of the Forrester house converged in a symphony of spectral energy. The boundaries between the living and the dead blurred, and the house itself seemed to groan under the weight of its malevolent history. As the clock struck midnight, an otherworldly force surged through the Forrester house. Chains that bound Lily's spirit shattered, and the spectral reenactments ceased. The atmosphere, once oppressive, lifted, and a profound stillness settled over the old Victorian. The house, it seemed, had finally relinquished its hold on the living and the dead. In the aftermath of the seance, the Forrester house transformed. No longer a malevolent entity, it stood as a witness to the echoes of redemption that had unfolded within its walls. Lily's spirit, freed from the shackles of the cursed ritual, found solace in the arms of the ethereal realm. Emily, now aware of the spectral playmate's tragic history, felt an inexplicable connection to the house that had become a vessel for both sorrow and redemption. With Lily's spirit at peace, the wounds that had scarred the Forrester house began to heal. The shadows retreated, and the spectral whispers softened into a gentle breeze. Sarah, Emily, and the house itself emerged from the ethereal journey forever changed. The town, witnessing the transformation, could sense the weight of the old Victorian's history lifting, as if a chapter of darkness had finally yielded to the dawn of a new understanding. As the days turned into weeks, a deceptive calm settled over the Forrester house. The once ethereal presence of Lily lingered, leaving behind a faint trace of melancholy in the air. Shadows, though subdued, still danced in the corners of the rooms, a reminder that the supernatural had left an indelible mark on the Victorian dwelling. Sarah, Emily, and the townsfolk, despite the newfound understanding, couldn't shake the feeling that the house held secrets yet unrevealed. One rainy afternoon, Emily discovered an old chest in the attic, hidden beneath moth-eaten blankets and forgotten relics. As she opened the creaking lid, a spectral glow emanated from within. The artifact, a weathered family heirloom, seemed to pulsate with ethereal energy. Sarah, recognizing the heirloom from Lily's journal, realized it held the key to fully breaking the shackles of the cursed ritual that had bound the Forrester house for generations. Sarah, guided by the residual energy of the artifact, embarked on a journey to unravel the remaining ethereal threads that clung to the Forrester house. The townsfolk, sensing a shift in the supernatural currents, watched as Sarah delved into the hidden recesses of the old Victorian, determined to confront the lingering shadows and ensure that the newfound peace within the Forrester house remained unmarred. As midnight approached, the Forrester house seemed to awaken once more. Shadows thickened, and the air crackled with ethereal energy. Sarah, standing in the heart of the living room, held the artifact aloft. A spectral wind whispered through the halls, carrying with it the echoes of long-forgotten sorrow. The artifact, a conduit to the ethereal realm, invited the remnants of the cursed ritual to reveal themselves and be cast into the abyss. The remnants of the cursed ritual resisted the ethereal unraveling. Spectral apparitions materialized, their faces etched with grief and defiance. The Forrester house groaned under the strain of the supernatural forces at play. Sarah, steadfast in her determination, called upon the townsfolk for support. Together, they formed a circle around the artifact, a barrier against the ethereal resistance that sought to maintain its grasp on the Victorian dwelling. In a climactic surge of ethereal energy, the artifact absorbed the remnants of the cursed ritual. The Forrester house trembled as the shadows recoiled, and a blinding light enveloped the living room. The townsfolk, united in purpose, felt the weight of the supernatural resistance dissipate. As the clock struck midnight, the artifact, now free of its malevolent burden, pulsed with a serene glow. The Forrester house stood silent, its once haunted halls now cleansed of the lingering curse. With the breaking of the curse, a renewed peace settled over the Forrester house. Shadows retreated into oblivion, and the walls ceased their whispers. Sarah, Emily, and the townsfolk felt the tangible shift in the atmosphere, a transformation that marked the conclusion of the ethereal unraveling. The Victorian dwelling, now free from the shackles of its cursed history, stood as a beacon of resilience and redemption. In the days that followed, the Forrester house underwent a metamorphosis. The faded wallpaper regained its luster, and the floorboards ceased their ominous creaking. The artifact, now a symbol of triumph over the supernatural, found a place of honor in the living room. Sarah and Emily, their bond strengthened by the shared journey, embraced the newfound tranquility that enveloped their once uncertain abode. Despite the renewed peace that settled over the Forrester house, lingering echoes of the ethereal journey persisted. Sarah, Emily, and the townsfolk couldn't escape the feeling that the supernatural currents had merely retreated, biding their time in the unseen corners of the Victorian dwelling. Whispers in the wind hinted at a residual presence, a spectral residue that clung to the very essence of the transformed abode. As the days passed, Sarah delved deeper into the history of the Forrester house, seeking to unveil any remaining secrets that might linger within its walls. Old photographs, hidden compartments, and forgotten letters revealed fragments of untold stories. Tales of forbidden love, family feuds, and the tragic events that had intertwined the fates of the living and the dead. The newfound revelations hinted at a complex tapestry of supernatural entanglements that transcended generations. One stormy night, the Forrester house underwent an unexpected transformation. The ethereal currents, once thought to be vanquished, surged back with renewed vigor. Shadows thickened, and spectral whispers crescendoed in a haunting symphony. Sarah, Emily, and the townsfolk, now attuned to the supernatural rhythms, felt the unsettling resurgence of ethereal forces that defied the boundaries of time and space. In the heart of the ethereal resurgence, Emily began experiencing spectral visions that transcended the confines of the present. Images of bygone eras flashed before her eyes. The Victorian era, the Roaring Twenties, and a spectral figure that seemed to bridge the gap between the living and the dead. Sarah, alarmed by her daughter's cryptic visions, sought the guidance of the townsfolk, hoping to decipher the enigmatic messages that Emily seemed destined to convey. The townsfolk, with their collective knowledge of the Forrester house's history, uncovered a startling revelation. The spectral visions that Emily experienced unveiled a tapestry of time-entwined threads, connecting the supernatural forces of the past to the present. The Victorian dwelling, it seemed, harbored not only the echoes of its own history, but also the residual energy of ethereal events that transcended the linear constraints of time. As the ethereal resurgence intensified, The spirits of the Forrester house's past converged in a spectral gathering that defied the laws of the mortal realm. Lily, the tragic figure from the 19th century, stood alongside apparitions from various eras, their faces etched with the weight of untold stories. The Forrester house, now a conduit for the convergence of spirits, became a focal point for the town's journey through the ethereal dimensions. Through the spectral convergence, the spirits communicated a sense of unfinished business that transcended the bounds of their individual tragedies. The Forrester house, it appeared, held the key to resolving the unresolved conflicts that bound the spectral entities to the mortal realm. Sarah, guided by the interconnected threads of time and ethereal energy, embarked on a quest to uncover the lingering mysteries that veiled the spirits in perpetual unrest. Sarah, accompanied by Emily and the townsfolk, embarked on an ethereal quest that transcended the confines of the Forrester house. Guided by the spectral visions and the intertwined threads of time, they ventured into the heart of the supernatural forces that lingered in the town's history. The ethereal quest unfolded as a journey through forgotten eras, revealing the untold stories and unresolved conflicts that had left a spectral imprint on the living and the dead. As the ethereal quest reached its zenith, Sarah and the townsfolk confronted the unresolved conflicts that bound the spirits to the mortal realm. Forbidden love, familial betrayals, and long-buried secrets emerged from the shadows, demanding acknowledgement and resolution. The Forrester house, serving as the nexus of the spectral convergence, bore witness to the ethereal resolution that unfolded in a transcendent dance of spirits and emotions. With the acknowledgement of the unresolved conflicts, the ethereal currents began to shift. The spirits, their faces now marked with expressions of release and peace, dissipated into the unseen dimensions. The Forrester house, once again bathed in a serene glow, stood as a witness to the transformative power of spectral resolution. The shadows that had thickened during the ethereal resurgence now retreated, leaving behind a renewed sense of tranquility. As the town emerged from the ethereal quest, a timeless legacy unfolded. The Forrester house, though forever marked by its supernatural history, stood as a testament to the resilience of the living and the redemption of the departed. The intertwined threads of time, once entangled in spectral conflicts, now wove a tapestry of understanding and closure. Sarah, Emily, and the townsfolk, forever changed by the ethereal journey, embraced the timeless legacy that would linger in the quiet corners and faded wallpaper of the Victorian dwelling.